Hold up, turn off your notifications because you definitely don't want to miss this episode. This is the Reddit Herald, and today we're diving into threads that literally broke the internet. You seriously won't see this ending coming. Let's get into it. Out of nowhere, my own flesh and blood sent me a text. It read, "We need some space from you. Do us a favor and stop reaching out entirely. Don't call, don't text, nothing. Just like that. No warning, no chance to even sit down and discuss things." It was just a cold, harsh line of text lighting up my phone screen like a hazard sign on a dark road. There I was, standing in the middle of my small apartment, and I swear the dead silence in that room felt heavier than any screaming match we'd ever been through. But you know what? I didn't beg them to reconsider, and I didn't break down crying. Instead, I took a deep breath and sent back the calmest, most collected reply I've ever typed out in my life. Honestly, they had absolutely no clue how much that exact moment was going to end up costing them down the line. Before I get into the rest of what happened, do me a huge favor, hit that like button and drop a comment letting me know what city you're listening from. It really helps me know who's out there on the other side of this whole mess with me. My name is Maeve Whitlock. For pretty much as long as I can remember, I've been that guy everyone just dumps their problems onto. It's like I was the designated coat rack for everyone else's heavy baggage. They'd just hand it over quietly, without a second thought, and never bother to ask if my shoulders were strong enough to carry the weight. For work, I handle payroll at a local medical facility here in the city. It's the kind of job that's completely built on structure, rules, and logic, two things I've really leaned on to keep myself sane over the years. My apartment is a reflection of that need for order. It's got soft, relaxing lighting, clean counters, and I keep all my receipts filed away by color in a desk drawer that tends to stick a bit whenever the summer humidity hits. It's nothing flashy or expensive, but it's mine, and it's stable. The thing is, in my family, stability has always meant just one thing: I'm the guy who picks up the tab. My mother, Linda, absolutely loves to throw around the phrase, "family takes care of family." She usually pulls that card out while she's standing by the kitchen sink with a dish towel in her hand, doing that dramatic sigh of hers instead of actually finishing her sentences. My dad, Robert, prefers a much more direct approach. He likes to hit me with lectures about loyalty, duty, and how he didn't raise his son to nickel and dime his own blood. The second I hear his voice start to tighten up, I already know what it means: there's an unpaid bill floating around somewhere, and I'm expected to cover it. Then, of course, there's my younger sister, Nora. She's 3 years younger than me, but she's about a lifetime louder. Growing up, Nora always knew exactly how to make herself the absolute center of attention. It was always about her new jackets, her new hairstyles, or whatever new drama she had going on that week. She calls me banker girl, well, banker boy, in my case, which is half joke, half insult, and entirely convenient whenever she needs help with a security deposit or finds herself short on her car payment. Every single time I tried to put my foot down and say no, the rest of the family would pipe up like a rehearsed choir. They'd say stuff like, "Don't be so dramatic," or, "She can't handle this on her own," and, "Come on, you're the responsible one." Even the aunts, uncles, and cousins played right along with it. Our extended family group chat was a non-stop flood of life updates, family photos, memes, and daily complaints, right up until the moment someone brought up money. The second finances entered the conversation, the whole vibe changed. Everyone's tone sharpened up real quick, and they'd start reminding me of how much my parents had sacrificed for me, how much Nora deserved a break, and how I shouldn't make things uncomfortable for everyone else. It didn't matter to them that they had no clue what my actual budget looked like, or how many hoops I had to jump through every single month just to keep everyone else's head above water. Through all of this chaos, the only person who never tried to take advantage of me was my Uncle Grant. He owns a small moving company across town. It's the kind of gritty work that gives you calloused hands and a real, quiet understanding of human nature. He never asked me for a single dime, and he never even hinted at it. He just stood back and watched how everyone treated me. I didn't realize just how important his perspective would be until much later down the road. For years, I kept telling myself that this was just how families work. Every family has their designated roles, right? Mine just happened to make me the guy who funded all the family emergencies, covered the financial shortfalls, and sponsored the endless stream of, "I'll pay you back next week," promises that never actually materialized. I convinced myself it wasn't personal. But honestly, every single time I opened up my banking app, and every time I had to cancel my own plans just so theirs could succeed, something small inside of me started to turn bitter. And then we get to the night where the scale finally tipped. The night that text message showed up. It didn't even feel like a regular text, it felt like a heavy door being slammed right in my face. Looking back, the days leading up to that message felt incredibly strange, though I didn't really have the words for it at the time. There were these tiny shifts, little jabs, and moments that normally should have just rolled off my back, but instead, they settled deep under my skin like splinters. It started with Nora, because of course it did. She walked into my parents' house wearing a brand new designer coat, the price tags were literally still creased into the fabric, and immediately started bragging about this nicer, safer apartment she was looking at across town. She didn't even bother to look me in the eye when she said it. Honestly, she didn't think she needed to. "You're going to cover the security deposit for me, right?" she asked, casually scrolling through her phone like she was ordering a pizza. I looked right at her and said no. I didn't yell, and I didn't say it angrily. It was just a firm, steady no, the exact one I had been practicing in my bathroom mirror for weeks. The reaction was instant. My mom completely froze with a dish in her hand. My dad sucked in this slow, deeply disappointed breath. That was literally all it took to flip the room. The entire atmosphere shifted, the air got thick, and just like that, I was back to being the selfish villain of the family. Nora didn't even blink. She just smirked at me and said, "Come on, financial whiz. It's really not that deep. What would you do if you were in this situation? Would you have kept paying, or would you have walked away?" I ended up leaving early that night. I sat out in my car for a long time, listening to the heater tick in the dashboard, genuinely wondering why setting a basic, healthy boundary made me feel like I had just committed a felony. But the real kicker came about 2 days later while I was at work. My office phone rang, and I picked it up using my usual polite, professional corporate voice. On the other end of the line was my parents' landlord. He was calling to cheerfully confirm the renewal of their automatic rent deposit agreement, which was tied directly to my bank account. He even thanked me for reversing a recent late fee. That was news to me, considering I didn't even know a late fee existed in the first place. He just kept on talking, casually mentioning that my parents had given him my direct work email address and a copy of my weekly work schedule so he could figure out the best time to catch me at my desk. I remember just staring blankly at the wall across from me, watching the cheap office art blur together as a wave of pure anger rushed up my neck. They hadn't just stolen my money this time. They had crossed a major line by dragging my career into their mess and handing out my private personal information like it was free candy. I used to think privacy was something you didn't have to actively guard against your own family. But right then and there, I realized I didn't have any privacy left at all. That same evening, I didn't waste any time. I drove straight over to their place. The apartment hallway hit me with that familiar, depressing mix of industrial cleaning supplies and stale takeout. I made my parents sit down right there on the sagging couch, the exact one I'd bought for them, while Nora just leaned against the doorway, smirking. I finally looked them in the eye and said the words I'd been swallowing for years: "I deserve to actually know what I'm paying for around here." My mom's face hardened up instantly. "We feel completely attacked right now," she said. My dad just crossed his arms, looking down his nose at me. "You can take that attitude to your corporate coworkers, but you don't use it with us." Then Nora let out a nasty little laugh from the hallway. "What, do we need to tip you now or something?" It wasn't even a blowout fight. Nobody was screaming. Honestly, it was worse than that. It was just casual, effortless cruelty, delivered with the kind of ease that only comes from years of practice. I didn't even bother finishing my sentence, I just turned around and walked out. The next afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the family group chat, and it was the message that changed the entire game: "We need distance from you. Please stop contacting us completely." But something weird happened inside me. I didn't break down. Instead, something clicked. Right into place. Permanently. For a few minutes after reading that text, it felt like time completely stopped. The air in my room felt thick, like it was forcing me to sit perfectly still so I could fully process what had just happened. My family wasn't asking for a little breathing room. They were handing down a lifetime ban. No discussion, no trying to figure things out. Just a final verdict. Almost immediately, this heavy, echoing silence flooded in. I sat on the edge of my mattress, staring at that screen until it went completely black. I didn't even feel mad. It was just a cold, heavy wave of clarity that I'd never experienced in my entire life. If distance was what they were asking for, I was going to give it to them. Completely. About an hour later, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a name I totally didn't expect to see: my Uncle Grant. He's the kind of guy who never calls you unless the building is on fire. When I picked up, his voice was real steady, but careful. "Hey, I'm over at your parents' place right now," he said. "They called me to come help them pack." For a second, I thought my ears were playing tricks on me. "Pack what?" "Everything," he replied quietly. "Clothes, dishes, the whole 9 yards. They're moving out." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Of course they were. They weren't just cutting me off digitally, they were physically packing up their lives and vanishing into thin air, leaving me behind like an unwanted bill they were done paying. Grant paused for a second before adding, "Look, I'll make sure anything with your name on it gets back to you safely. Don't sweat it." He wasn't taking sides or getting messy. He just dealt in plain facts. But hearing the truth from him, knowing he was standing in their living room right that second, boxing up their lives, that hit me way harder than the text message did. Once we hung up, I walked over and opened that desk drawer filled with the color-coded receipts I'd been hoarding for years. Rent, power bills, bus passes, medical expenses, streaming subscriptions, groceries, you name it. They were the invisible threads I'd been using to stitch their entire lives together, month after month. I always told myself I kept them just to keep my own sanity straight, but looking at them now, they looked like a map. It was a paper trail of every single time I had abandoned my own needs just to keep their heads above water. I spread all those receipts out across the hardwood floor. Green ones for housing, yellow for utilities, blue for car payments and transportation, red for doctor bills, and purple for all the random miscellaneous junk they never even remembered I paid for. The edges of the paper were curled up, looking just as exhausted as I felt. I sat there on the floor with my knees pulled up to my chest and, for the very first time, I forced myself to see the situation for what it really was. This wasn't about supporting each other. This sure as hell wasn't love. This was pure financial dependency disguised as family duty. I had basically become the entire foundation holding up a house that never actually had a room for me inside it. But that realization didn't crush me. It actually set me free. What do you think about this? What would you do in this situation if you realized your family was just using you as a paycheck? Leave a comment with your thoughts. Later that night, my buddy Elias came over. He didn't knock loudly or kick the door down, he just gave a soft, gentle tap and let himself in, the way a real friend does when they know you need someone around. "They texted you, didn't they?" he said softly. He didn't even have to ask, he could see it written all over my face. I just slid my phone across the table to him. He read through the message, his jaw clenching up, but his eyes stayed sympathetic. "Man, you don't deserve to be treated like this," he said. I didn't cry, and I didn't have a meltdown. I just let out this massive exhale, like someone had finally unbuckled a tight strap around my chest. I'm done, I told him. Completely done. Elias came over and sat right next to me on the floor, right in the middle of all those piles of receipts. All right, then let's start from the beginning, he said. Show me exactly what you've been carrying for them. I handed him the very first stack, the green ones for housing. He started flipping through them slowly, like he was reading the final chapters of a book that suddenly made the whole story make sense. The next morning, I went straight into my therapist, Dr. Priya's office, and laid it all out on the table. I told her about the text, the sudden packing, and the years of financial manipulation. She listened intently, nodded her head, and finally looked at me. Maeve, she said, cutting off a toxic financial entanglement isn't abandonment. It's self-preservation. Hearing her say that felt like getting a permission slip I didn't even realize I'd been waiting for. By the time I walked out of her office, my head was completely clear and my hands weren't shaking at all. I knew exactly what my next move had to be. The next message I sent to my family wasn't going to be some emotional plea. It was going to be cold, hard, final facts, built entirely on the heavy truth they had forced me to carry all by myself. I didn't end up sending anything that night, though. I went to bed and put my phone completely on silent, face down on the nightstand, the way you do when you're finally ready to stop letting other people run your life. But when I flipped it over the next morning, the family group chat was an absolute train wreck. There was a mountain of missed messages stacked up like fallen dominoes. Nora had started the whole chain, because of course she did. Where are you? The texts read. Why aren't you answering us? Mom says you're just being dramatic again. Then a few hours later, fine. We'll just do everything without you. I had to stop and think about that. If they truly wanted to cut me out of their lives and wanted distance, why the hell were they blowing up my phone demanding a response? I scrolled all the way back up to that original message, staring at those words again, we need distance from you. Please stop contacting us completely. Reading those words again, it still felt totally unreal. It was clean and sharp, like a bad paper cut you don't feel until you look down. But this time around, I had something they didn't have, total clarity. I walked right over to my small kitchen table, laid out all those color-coded stacks of bills from the night before, and started snapping photos with my phone. I took one picture for every single category: housing, power and water, medical bills, car payments, streaming subscriptions, and all the miscellaneous junk. It was visual proof of 7 long years spent being my family's silent financial backbone. My fingers didn't shake at all while I took those photos. They used to shake whenever the family drama started, but not anymore. Then, I opened up the family group chat. The message I sent back arrived as a single, quiet block of pure precision. I'm honoring your request for distance. Attached is a summary of the bills I've been covering on your behalf. Every single one of these payments is going to end on the date circled in the photos. Please make sure to transfer the leases and accounts into your own names within the next 30 days. I attached the photos one by one. Send. 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 And then, I added the one final line that I knew would completely stop them from pretending they didn't understand exactly what I brought to the table. Of course, I'll be canceling all my direct deposits first thing today. For about 2 whole minutes, there was nothing but dead silence. I could literally picture their phone screens lighting up in real time, their eyes darting across numbers, dates, and grand totals they had never once bothered to ask me about. And then, right on cue, the absolute panic set in. My mom blew up the chat first. Maeve. What on earth is this supposed to mean? Then my dad chimed in, money is not the same thing as family. Don't you dare weaponize your income against us. Nora came in hot right behind him, you are seriously sick. You're only doing this to humiliate us. Then Aunt Marla jumped into the mix. Then a random cousin. Then that cousin's spouse. Those little gray typing bubbles were swarming the bottom of my screen like a cloud of gnats. My mom texted again, trying to backtrack. We meant we needed distance from your bad attitude, Maeve, not from you. I typed back a simple reply, your message explicitly said to stop contacting you completely. I'm just honoring your wishes. My dad fired back with a massive paragraph of text. No punctuation, just pure, unadulterated fury. After every single thing we did for you while you were growing up, this is the kind of thanks we get? We trusted you with our bills because we actually thought you understood what family loyalty meant better than this. I didn't even bother responding to the guilt trip. Honestly, I'd been hearing that exact same lecture in 100 different variations for years. Seeing that the anger wasn't working, Nora immediately switched her tactics to playing the victim. I can't afford to pack up and move right now. I'm going to end up stuck living in a dangerous neighborhood. Are you seriously going to be happy if something bad happens to me? I stared at her message, my breathing completely steady. Emotional blackmail had always been their absolute favorite tool in the shed. I typed back, I truly hope you stay safe, Nora. But I am not responsible for funding your lifestyle. Total silence. Then my mom tried to call me. Then my dad. Then Nora. Call after call, the rings kept lighting up my screen until I finally just flipped the switch over to Do Not Disturb. They desperately wanted a reaction out of me, and I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction. About an hour later, a brand new message popped up. It wasn't in the group chat, though, it was a private text from Uncle Grant. Hey, I'm swinging by tonight to drop off a few boxes, he wrote. It's stuff that belongs to you. They didn't even bother opening them. I paused, staring at the phrase, belongs to me. When Grant showed up at my apartment later that evening, he was standing in my doorway holding 3 neatly stacked cardboard boxes. His jacket was all dusty from spending the whole day moving furniture. They tried to rush me out of there, Grant told me, shaking his head. Told me not to bother grabbing anything that wasn't explicitly theirs. But I noticed your name on a few of these boxes. He set them down gently on my floor. I opened them up and looked inside. It was full of unopened kitchen towels, a nice blender still sealed in its original packaging, and a brand new internet router they'd never even bothered to install. It was all stuff I had bought for them over the years, tiny, thoughtful attempts to make their lives a little bit easier that they had just pushed aside, completely forgotten about, and left taped shut. Grant watched me take it all in. You did a hell of a lot more for them than they ever cared to admit, he said quietly. Don't you dare let them twist the truth on this. Even knowing I was in the right, I felt a sharp twist right in the center of my chest. I think it was grief. Not because I was sad about losing them, but because I was finally seeing the unvarnished truth of my family without the blurry filter of obligation. The second Grant left, the group chat exploded all over again. My mom wrote, how could you let Grant see our private family business? My dad added, we will never forgive you for embarrassing us like this. And Nora finished it off with, I hope you're real proud of yourself. You ruined everything. I didn't type a single word back. I just placed my phone face down on the kitchen counter, poured myself a tall glass of water, and drank it slowly and deliberately in the quiet room. About 10 minutes passed before the notifications started changing their tone. It flipped from pure anger to desperate pleading, a transition as predictable as the tides. My mom wrote, Maeve, please don't do this to us. Your father isn't sleeping a wink. My dad typed, I worked hard my entire life. You owe me some respect. Then Nora, if you stop paying for my phone plan, how am I supposed to call my job or get help if there's an emergency? I responded one last time, keeping it brief, I'm not discussing money with any of you anymore. Another long pause. And right then and there, the old, rigid family dynamic cracked wide open like an egg dropped on a tile floor. Nora fired back one last time, I just don't understand why you're being so incredibly cold to us now. I gave her the simplest answer I had, you told me not to contact you. I'm just doing exactly what you asked for. This time, absolutely nobody replied. The silence stretched out so long that I could actually hear the faint hum of my own refrigerator and the soft thud of footsteps from the neighbors living above me. They were real, normal, present-moment sounds. It felt like my own actual life was finally resurfacing. But the peace didn't last through the night. Right around midnight, the group chat started lighting up again, but this time the extended family was joining the raid. Aunt Marla wrote, "We never expected this kind of behavior from you, Maeve." Cousin Blair added, "This is way too extreme. You could have handled this a whole lot better." Another cousin chimed in, "Family is supposed to sacrifice for each other. Why can't you just do that?" I didn't type out a defense. Instead, I just uploaded a simple PDF document to the chat. It contained basic budget templates, renters assistance resources, financial aid programs, and the direct customer service numbers for all the local utility providers. It was just a list of practical tools to help them finally learn how to stand on their own 2 feet. At the very bottom of the document, I typed a final note, "You're capable of handling this. You always have been." After that, there was no more noise. Just an absolute, complete stillness. It felt exactly like stepping out of a raging blizzard and into a quiet, warm hallway. Around 2 a.m., one final text message popped up from my mom, "If you actually go through with this, you are dead to me." I stared at that line for a long time. Not because the words hurt me, but because of the shocking realization that they didn't hurt at all. I typed back, "I'm sorry you feel that way." Then, I flipped my phone face down. Sitting there in the dark of my apartment, for the first time in years, I felt something that honestly scared me a little more than their anger ever did. I felt pure, overwhelming relief. By the time morning rolled around, the group chat was completely dead. It was an unnatural, echoing kind of quiet after days of non-stop noise. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee, sat down at my small kitchen table, and for the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel myself bracing for some impending family crisis. Instead, I just opened up my laptop and finished the job I had started. I changed all my bank passwords, removed my debit cards from all of their shared accounts, and officially shut down every single monthly payment tied to their names. Every time I hit a confirmation button, it felt like cutting a tight string that had been wrapped around my ribs for years, letting me finally take a full breath. Later that week, I was sitting across from my therapist, Dr. Priya, and I admitted to her that I felt incredibly light, but also totally terrified. She just gave me a gentle smile and said, "Peace can feel dangerous when you've spent your entire life living in chaos." Elias came over again that night, bringing takeout and that quiet, steady understanding of his. He didn't try to lecture me or offer unsolicited advice. He just sat right next to me on the couch, his knee resting against mine, completely grounding me in the room. He looked at me and said, "I'm really proud of you, man." And for the first time in my life, I actually believed it. In the weeks that followed, my life didn't get louder, it just got a whole lot clearer. I started going for walks without constantly checking my phone for text alerts. I cooked dinner without waiting for someone to call me with an emergency. And slowly but surely, that quiet apartment stopped feeling like abandonment and started feeling like real freedom. I finally learned that love without respect isn't love at all, and that setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's just survival. If you've ever had to step back from someone you cared about just to save your own sanity, share your story down in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one.